Welcome in, everyone, to Picks and Parlays Bettors Edge. This is the grand finale of the regular season, and if anyone would have scripted this year and how the NFL went, they deserve free drinks for the rest of the year because this has been absolutely absurd, especially when you look at the first game we're going to talk about, the Vikings and the Lions. The Lions got absolutely screwed by the refs last week, no matter which way you want to draw it up. And now at this point, they're playing for a 2 seed or essentially just to keep the Vikings out. So after that heartbreaker, a 3-point favorite at home. Craig, do you like them over the Vikings? Do they have the chip on their shoulder, or are they just playing essentially at this point not to get hurt?
You know, the line suggests that the Lions have nothing to play for because Minnesota played absolutely terrible last week, yet they're only a 3-point favorite here. So this is all of my bells as a handicapper going off when I think this line, if Detroit, you're saying this Detroit team needs to win to get the 2 seed or have a chance at the 2 seed, why isn't this line 6? So to me, when you see this, I run the other way. So I'm going to take Minnesota here. I know their quarterback play last week wasn't good. I understand it, but they had a couple times where they score late. I mean, they could have put a little pressure on Green Bay. I just think Detroit has a little hangover effect that they're like, hey, woe is me, we got beat because the refs screwed us. I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings. They don't have to win, too, here. We could get a cover. So I'm going to take Minnesota plus the points.
I don't know if Detroit's a woe is me team. What about you, Pony? That doesn't seem like their mentality to me.
Well, first of all, let's comment on the get-up for you today. The vintage Steelers sweatshirt. She's back on the bandwagon.
I'm channeling a vintage Steelers this week. We have a Saturday video that will be coming out. You have to watch that. It'll be Pony and I talking about the Steelers. But I opened the season with the Steelers. I'm going to die with them in Week 18. That's a little bit of a preview there for you.
It is nice to have all of us back in studio, too.
Yeah,
it is. It's been
it's
a
great.
while.
Great to have Craig here.
I will say one more thing on your who would have predicted it. Aaron Rodgers' conspiracy theory that the Super Bowl logo
I said this last
has purple and red, and it makes it look like Ravens and 49ers already. Like they predicted this.
Well, that was a good prediction.
And if you look at every single one before that, it matches the colors.
Yeah.
Really? Pretty crazy.
That gets to the whole scripted thing, yeah. I like Minnesota, too. I'm going to piggyback off of what Craig said. Dan Campbell's comments this week were that the starters were going to play for now. And when that was said, the line went from 5 down to 3. Now, it would have moved more if we had certainty on Minnesota's quarterback. That really, with them, is not a good option. Mullins turns the ball over too much. It looks like the Josh Dobbs dream went up in flames, and then Jaron Hall was just way in over his head last week against Green Bay. But in these matchups historically where one team, Minnesota, can still make the playoffs, and the other team, Detroit, would need Philly to lose to New York and Dallas to lose to Washington. That ain't happening. So I think Dan Campbell is going to do the prudent thing as a former player and get his big-time players some time off in this game, some rest, and I think that's why Minnesota covers and wins the game, ultimately.
Absolutely. I would have taken originally when I looked at this, I was like, oh, take the Lions if they're going to play all of their players because they also get Gardner Johnson back, and that would help. There's all these things going. Minnesota has a quarterback carousel, but because of all of those things right now, there's a lot of these games we're going to look at and say if the players sit or if they play, that's going to determine the outcome. Take Minnesota at +3 there because the Lions really, they don't benefit from playing anybody except the risk of getting hurt at this point. And I just think after you saw what happened last week, you don't risk anything else on your season. Leave it in your hands and rest your starters. All right, Cowboys, Commanders. Pony, you've already said it. There's no way that you think the Commanders get this one done. The Cowboys need this win. The Commanders could play spoiler again, though, if they really wanted to. So, as they did in Week 18 last season, if you remember. So, the Commanders, 13.5-point underdog in this one. Obviously, you don't think that the Cowboys lose, but did the Commanders cover?
I think they do. I mean, this is going to be Ron Rivera's last game as Commanders coach, and say what you will about the guy, he is one of the most respected coaches in the NFL. I think that he, because of his playing career in Chicago and his journey, I think guys will want to play for him in his last game. I don't think that they, tank the game or lose the game on purpose to better their draft pick. I think they're behind him for one more game. And you always get up for the Cowboys when you see that logo as a Washington player. The splits with the Cowboys, I mean, it hasn't changed all year. Dallas, they go on the road. They either lose like the last 2 games or they're, for the most part, non-impressive. Dak Prescott away from Dallas, 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Yep. I mean, he turns into Gardner Minshew on the road, which is not a bad quarterback, but it's also not an elite MVP candidate. So in a division game, It's way too many points for me to lay with Dallas. I'm going to take Washington. You like to lay points in these situations, Hannah. You've done that this year with the Cowboys.
I have done that with the Cowboys here.
I'm very interested in what you're going to say here on this game.
There is nothing worse than playing a team in Week 18 with absolutely nothing to lose, though. And so in this situation,
and I think he'll play Brissett if he's healthy. He got late scratched last week. I think he'll start, and that's a big key for Washington.
That could be, but I also think if Howell has a chance to step in there, he wants to prove himself for ego, if nothing less. I really don't see a situation here where if the Cowboys win by more than 13.5, I think it's going to be a miracle, because I would seriously call it that, only because I just really think that in these Week 18 type of situations, going into Washington, a team that's got absolutely nothing to lose but lay it all on the line, it just spells keeping it close here and just giving Dallas a little bit of a heart attack in this one. And like you said, the Cowboys could realistically be coming into this one on a 3-game losing streak had what happened last week not happened. So it's
What's
not
the line look like if that happens, Hannah?
Truthfully, it's probably
a
lot closer to 10, 9.5, 10 in this one because of what happened last year, Week 18, nothing to lose, that kind of situation. So they could have been on a 3-game losing streak, and this would have told a different story to me. So they're not playing their best football coming into this one, and that's why I think the Commanders can cover. Craig, what about you? Are you going to take the Cowboys in this one?
Absolutely. I actually think they can win.
Wow,
Dallas, because
that's a huge money line.
Because I think what happens is here's what happens. These games, you go in, you're like, we just need to win. Try to stay healthy. Before you know it, you're in a dogfight with a team that has played for their coach, even though they haven't played well for their coach lately. And like you said, Brissett was a different quarterback when he came in. The 2 starts before, or not starts, but he came in as in a relief role, was great. This is one of those correlated parlay games. If you like the Commanders like I do, I think you take the over as well. Because I think, and if you like the Cowboys, I think you take the under, and thinking the Cowboys defense just shuts them down. But I think they're going to be in a dogfight late. I'm taking Washington plus the points and the over as part of it.
All right.
I think it's one of those interesting games of the weekend.
Yeah.
I do too. I absolutely do. Especially with what have happened last year. And Dallas does have a lot to prove. Like I said, they're not coming into this one playing their best football, so they kind of need to get it together before the playoffs. Eagles and Giants. Eagles, another team that it's just been interesting to watch their downfall in the past few weeks because we talked so highly about them. Right now, they're a 5.5-point favorite, though still in New York. So do you like them against the Giants? And keep in mind, the Eagles could rest players if they wanted to, but will they, Craig?
See, since I think Washington is a live dog, I think Eagles might see that as well. I mean, these division games in this division are crazy at times. And I think the Eagles say, one, they need to play better, especially on defense. And this isn't people think this is just the last couple weeks. It's not the last couple weeks. Remember going all the way back before they beat Buffalo on a miracle in overtime. They've just been giving up way too many points, especially in the past game. I'm going to take the Eagles here. They have to prove something, and I still think they can maybe get a home game by winning the division if Washington pulls off that upset. So I think this is one of those games, maybe you play the first half too, because they get up early and then they kind of see, they're watching the scores at half and saying if they're going to push the second half or not.
No, that's a really good point. I wish I would have looked at that line actually in the first half, because if I'm a bettor in this one, the way I was approaching this game was saying maybe wait to see if they're going to play some guys, but maybe that's the way to play it is probably the first half. So everybody maybe pay attention to that line. I actually liked the Giants at plus 5.5 because of situations similar, though. I really wasn't sure if Sirianni's going to look at this and say, listen, we've had our defense looked exhausted. They look exhausted at this point in the season, so I could see them possibly resting some guys in that defensive line, and their defense hasn't been strong then to that point, even with all of their starters in. So that's sort of why I like the Giants in that situation, keeping it close, especially with how it could play out. So maybe that plays into my hand a little bit better now that we look at it that way. So I like the Giants at plus 5.5 just because I can't see a situation where if something does happen to go wrong, if somebody's getting banged up, I can't see Sirianni risking it too much, especially because they haven't been playing their best ball heading into the playoffs. Where do you stand?
So I think this is a really there are merits, I think, on both sides of this debate about Philadelphia's approach to the game. If I'm Nick Sirianni as a football coach, I want my guys to play because I'm disgusted with how they collapsed against Arizona, and I don't want to just let them off the hook and give them a week to rest before the playoffs start. Like, I wanted them to get back out there, get it out of their system, play well against New York, and take that momentum into the playoffs. I also think you can fashion a pretty good argument that they're better off as a 5 seed than a 2 seed. Because even though the 2 seed would avoid San Francisco until the championship game, I think you could say right now, I'd rather play Tampa Bay, even though it's on the road, or the NFC South winner, than get the Rams or the Packers
Absolutely.
in the wild card weekend. So that's the other side of it.
Winning at Philly, though, is tough.
Right. I mean, obviously, you got home, but they just blew a 21-6 lead to Arizona at home.
Exactly.
So I'm going to take Philly here, laying 5.5. I don't feel great about it. I mean, last week they let me down. My best bet was Philly against Arizona.
Right.
Brutal.
And you hadn't liked them all year. And that was when we hyped that. We gassed that up for you.
We did. And now I'm going back to the well, but Santa, they remind me of the Steelers team that started 11-0 in 2020. And you look at their record, and nothing said great team. This team had an inflated record all year, and it's caught up to them. They typically beat the Giants. I think that they'll get payback against New York and hand it to them.
Well, remember, though, that also very tough to rest everybody. You only can rest 10 guys. And who you're going to rest? If you're resting Jalen Hurts,
A.J. Brown.
Yeah, you're going to rest maybe a couple offensive linemen and then maybe your couple defensive players. Most of your defensive guys have to play because the numbers just are what they are.
Fair enough, but if they rest couple of key defensive players, to my point earlier, their defense hasn't looked great with everybody, so I think Saquon Barkley and the Giants could take advantage of that and at least keep it close. All right, moving into Bears and Packers. The Bears are out of the playoffs but can play, spoiler to the Packers. Will they? This is going to be interesting. I think they could. I think they could keep it close. The Packers are playing fantastic right now. Jordan Love this morning on national media has been getting compared to Aaron Rodgers in a lot of ways, which is huge for him and good for him. Well-deserved. The Packers defense looks better. But here's what I think. I think the Bears keep it close, and I like the Bears at this +3 number here. Justin Fields has Chicago back. They want him there. He's playing well. He has his team back. Packers won 5 of the last 7. The Bears won 4 of their last 5. Fields either going to make a case for himself to stay or make his stock look really good to go somewhere else. That's why I like the Bears at +3 in this one. They've really got nothing to lose. I think they push the envelope here, and I think Justin Fields plays out of his mind. I think it's going to be a great quarterback matchup, but I think the Bears play it close. That's my biggest, probably prediction of the week, is that Fields is going to play out of his mind. Why did you go, woo? You don't think so?
Because he's been terrible against Green Bay. He's winless against them. And most of his numbers have been on the ground. And I do agree with the fan sentiment, I think, is shifting back towards staying with him and not using the first pick on Caleb Williams. All it would take, though, is him to play terribly against Green Bay, and he would lose all of that. I think it's that. I think this game, as far as the court of public opinion, means that much to him. I like Chicago too, but I like them for a different reason, Hannah. I think their defense, exactly. I think their defense is one of the underrated storylines of the second half of the season under Eberflus, the Montez Sweat trade that they made. They've not given up more than 20 points in a game since the week before Thanksgiving to Detroit, and that's when the Lions needed 17 points in the fourth quarter to come back and win that game. They scored all their points in the last 5 minutes. This has been an elite defense. And we saw Green Bay, I know it was with Aaron Rodgers. They lost this game in the same exact spot last year to Detroit, where Detroit had been eliminated earlier in the day. They still went to Lambeau and they won. So Green Bay has been that roller coaster ride team all year. I think Chicago is the better team at the moment. I'm taking them to win the game, Craig. Thoughts?
I'm right with you. I had
Chicago sweep here.
I had to do a double check because I was like, do the Packers need help winning? And we got
no,
here
it's just winning in.
Yeah, it's just winning in.
If
that
Chicago's
tells you how
out,
good
they can't
Chicago's been playing, that they're a 3-point. I mean, I'm just saying, if they're playing on neutral field, this is a pick-em game. And like you said, Green Bay has owned the Bears. Now, most of those wins were with Aaron Rodgers and bad Bears teams. I get it. But this was game 1. Was this matchup. So we see game 1, week 18, we see this matchup again. I just think the Bears and Justin Fields and the Bears, they want options. And what's a better option if Justin Fields plays great? Because now you can trade him and get probably a first-round pick, or you can trade those picks away like they did last year and get 2 or 3 first-round picks for what would be the right to draft Caleb Williams. So I'm going to take the Bears +3 points. I think they can win this game, but I could even see a scenario where They score late and they go for 2, miss, and then now you get the cover.
Right.
Because the Bears have nothing to lose, so they're going for win. They're going all out. I think they might even go for 2 early to kind of get off. You just never know. I just think this is a lot of pressure on a Packers team that's pretty young in spots.
Very young.
Absolutely, especially with Jordan Love the past few games. I think he's gotten off with some defenses that aren't playing like how Chicago is, to your point, Pony. So I think this could shake him up a little bit here, especially if he turns the ball over. Things could get interesting pretty quickly. Buffalo and Miami, this is our Sunday night game. This is a very big one, an interesting one. Everybody wants to see this matchup. Everybody's paying attention to what the Bills are doing. The Dolphins had a rough outing against Baltimore. I predicted the Ravens to win, I will say that, but I didn't expect it to be as bad as what it was. Truthfully, I just didn't. But now the Dolphins have lost Chubb. Waddle's dealing with a foot injury. Howard has an injury. There are some injury concerns heading into this one against Buffalo, Pony.
Yeah, I think Mike McDaniel really screwed up at the end of that Ravens game because Tua injured his shoulder. Thankfully, it wasn't that bad of an injury. He's going to play in this one. And Chubb was lost for the year when it's 49-19. Yep. I mean, come on. That's one of your most important players, especially with Jalen Phillips already being out. I mean, now your top 2 pass rushers are gone. But I like Miami in this game. The line surprises me in this way, Hannah. Buffalo has not played well the last 2 weeks. They beat New England by 6, and they went to L.A. and almost lost to Easton Stick. I mean, there was a lateral play at the end of that game. So I think the Bills are really right now living off of what they did in that Dallas game. And I still agree with the opinion that they would be, if they got in as a 6 or 7 seed, the most dangerous team to Baltimore. But I'm stunned that the line is Buffalo -3 because Tua's going to play.
Shocked.
And Tyreek Hill's going to play too, and that's obviously a big deal. I'm
going to go against. I know Craig is probably similar to Pony here, so I'm going to go ahead and let you make your argument too, and then I think I'm going to go against you guys.
It made no sense. I mean, this line makes no sense. At worst, I would think it would be a pick'em game. Give me 3 points with the Dolphins team that. I mean, let's be honest. If they lose this game, it's over. They're going to cold weather, going north to play. It's over. Their season is over. And
they can score 30 points in this game, no problem, I think.
I think Buffalo's defense. I mean, Buffalo's defense has shown, the one thing that, like you said, they haven't played good in a couple weeks. It's like you think this Bills team's really good because they're going to be dangerous and get in the playoffs. I get that. This team is built to win in the playoffs, but the Dolphins have to have a home field advantage. I'm going to go Dolphins going all in here. I'm going to take the Dolphins plus the 3. I would sprinkle the money line as well.
And if Bailey Zappi doesn't throw a pick 6, they lose at home to New England.
Yeah, then this game would mean nothing.
Fair enough. I'm still riding with the Bills here in this one at -3. Something is just telling me Josh Allen historically against the Dolphins and what he does and what happens. He historically performs well against them. He's thrown at least 2 touchdown passes in his past 12 games against Miami. So this one could be a shootout type of game where Buffalo pulls through. I really do think so, especially, Tua's playing. But what if something's happening in this game where his shoulder's looking off? What if something's happening where they want to play him for as long as they can, but then McDaniel is smarter in this one and says, you know what, we can't risk it with the playoffs here and what we've got on the line, and they pull him. What if these situations are happening? You've already lost Chubb as well. Like we said, Waddle could have some concern, so now Buffalo can put all of their efforts into shutting down Tyreek Hill. And then on top of that, the Dolphins don't do well when teams are running the ball well. Buffalo can do that and has done that late. So for those reasons, that's the argument that I liked better in this situation for this game. And I'm going to go ahead and ride with Buffalo, something I haven't done a lot this season either. So it's not like it's a biased pick in this favor. I've liked the Dolphins more so in this season than I have Buffalo. But do we have best bets in these ones here? Where are we going? Where's your head at, Pony, when you're looking at best bets?
I have a game we haven't talked about yet, and for good reason, because neither team is in a position where they need the game. But I look at the Rams and 49ers. San Francisco's a 3-point favorite there. The early conversation in San Francisco is that they don't want to sit out all of their players for 2 weeks because they've locked themselves into the bye. Deebo Samuel went on Kay Adams' show and said that, and other players have made that point. So I think they're going to play some. I think Purdy will start the game. I think Samuel, Ayuk, Williams probably won't because he's banged up. McCaffrey we know won't because he's got an injury, so Mitchell will be the running back. But for the most part, I think they're going to treat it like a last preseason game. have these guys play a half and then get out of there. I think the Rams are shutting down their best players for the entire game because they can't help themselves. No Stafford, no Aaron Donald, no Cooper Kupp, probably no Puka Nacua, probably no Kyrene Williams. So it's Carson Wentz and a bunch of backups. In San Francisco, I like the 49ers. We saw Sam Darnold come off the bench and play pretty well against Baltimore. So I think they win by way more than a field goal. That's my best bet.
Yeah, you just named every player for the Rams that when we talk about them having success, that's what it is. So, yeah, absolutely.
They don't get a bye. They got to go on the road next week.
That's good coaching is what that is. Absolutely. Craig, where's your best bet at this week?
We talked about it already. I'm going with the Commanders, and I'm going to buy the half a point, going to play them 14. I think this is a great spot for Washington. Hopefully Howe doesn't start because Brissett was much better in his two relief, not last game, but the 2 games before that. And I just think the Cowboys haven't been good on the road. We talked about it earlier. Give me the Commanders. I'll buy the half. You might not need to if you wait till the game time, but I'm going to take Commanders plus 14 points here. And Ron Rivera's, maybe last game ever as a coach.
Are you taking Chicago or Buffalo? I think that's where your head's at right now. Am I right?
I'm not. I'm going to make everybody go watch that Saturday video because this one's going to come out. And one of my best bets is going to be over on Saturday. I'll give you a best prop bet over on Saturday. It's not with the Steelers either, so it's going to be in that other game on Saturday. I'm going to make everyone go watch that for what Pony and I have in store for you.
Let's hope it's not a Penn State offensive prop for next year.
Okay, relax, okay? Rub some salt in that wound, Pony, okay?
That was a long trip to see that.
Yes, it was, everybody. Yes, it was. Got lots to talk about in there, too, but for right now, this is Week 18 of the NFL. Picks and Parlays, Bettors Edge. Make sure you download that Picks and Parlays app. We've got a lot coming your way for the finale of the regular season.